Hello, you're listening to the Nii Lamptey Show. My name is Joey, and I'm joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
And by Neil.
You all right?
Sorry, we've been away for a little while. I moved house, and I was unable to do recording stuff, but now I'm back, and we are back with a bang, or possibly a whimper. We will find out over the course of the next... we've got 9 games to cover, so possibly 5 hours. So strap yourselves in. Moments of the week, or moments of the... Well, it's 9 games, but we probably played them 9 games over 3 weeks by the feel of it, didn't we? So let's have the moments of the period. I'm going to throw it at you, Paul, because you've seen the one that's the most prepared.
Well, I mean, we could probably have a top 5 of Hamer moments, but let's be honest, it was his shot from the halfway line. And it wasn't just his shot from the halfway line. It was the tackle that preceded the shot from the halfway line. But mainly it was the shot from the halfway line.
You know, the goal that I always talk about against Grimsby, where Bayliss wins it and knocks it short to Doyle, and Doyle plays it long for JCH and rolls it into...
Yes.
No, that one.
Who was in the middle? Was it McNulty?
McNulty, yeah. That Hammer attempt was like he'd done all 4 of those bits. Do you know what I mean?
I feel sorry for our teammates. I mean, I know we weren't particularly enamoured with David McGoldrick when he signed, but by the end of it, you knew the rest of his teammates were like, this guy, I love playing with this guy.
Did he?
I get the feeling with Hamer, it must be like just a case of, fuck, I didn't realise football could be played like this. Like, who is this guy? How can he do everything a midfielder? We've had 10 midfielders in the last couple of years who can't do half the shit he does, either defensively or offensively, and he can do both.
Yeah,
I do worry that some of the stuff he's almost too good. He's sort of zipping the ball along the ground, and you can just see Jordan Shipley going, "Stop zipping it to me! A nice pace, please. I need easy passes."
Do you remember Peter Beardsley rocking up at Hartlepool? Anybody?
Vaguely.
And
How could anyone forget?
Well, of course, but the adage, or not the adage, but the story goes is that he rocked up at Hartlepool and was horrendous, and that largely it was just because he was on such a different plane of existence to the rest of the players that it didn't matter what he did. Nobody was reading any of his passes, any of his crosses, like everything was going astray. But he hadn't just turned bad overnight. Like he just was just a different...
I can imagine that's a thing, yeah.
Yeah. And I just think
it must be really hard. We had it with Wegley a bit, where Wegley would do a back heel, and the person he'd done a back heel to would be like, nice back heel. Like, no, you're meant to run onto that. The back heel was to release you, not to be admired by you. And it's a bit like that, Tom. He does stuff, and it's just, it's the fact he makes football really easy, but he can do it with either foot. And I know you sort of almost get to that point when it's like, are we just utilising about him because it's something we haven't seen at that quality for such a long time? And it's to be fair, we haven't had a central midfielder this gifted. Like, as much as I love Bayliss and some of the others we've had, we haven't had a player. Like, the one who was probably closest, but he would only be in periods of a game, would be someone like Musa, who you watch and you're like, you can literally do anything you want with the football, but you don't have the awareness. It's the fact, I mean, it was that he made that defensive challenge against Sheffield Wednesday when McFadden was completely out of position. You're like, that's just a brilliant defensive midfielder. And then as I said, it's just the complete work of a central midfielder, and he does it at a level which is just above everyone else. And you just watch him going, he's only been here for a season. I mean, it'd be, regardless of what we do the rest of the season, if a top championship club or a lower league Premier League club doesn't look at him and go, we can find a place for him in our team or our squad, I'll be amazed, because he's just a level above us.
Why is he here in the first place?
Because I think players, it's a bit like when we signed Motang for 250,000 from Feyenoord. I think you can just find these players, but even when we signed him, people were rocking it with the stats that no one had created more chances in the top divisions than he had. Like, we knew the pedigree we were signing when we signed him because there were the stats out there to sort of back it up. Why he's ended up at Cov is sometimes players just need to be picked out. So now he's been picked out, you've got the feeling that if there aren't Premier League clubs looking at him, which they probably were anyway, they're now sort of it's cemented, isn't it? It's easy to buy him from Cov now that it's gone through. You've got that early teething problem out of the way. He's got to learn English. He's got to do all that acclimatisation. He can do that at Cov, and then you can pick him up. But also you can see if he's got the quality.
That's a good enough answer. Neil?
I'm so annoyed Paul went big with Hamer, because I've got lots of mini Hamer things just to go on about, like his goal against Derby. What a great goal that was. Or him trying to head from even further out. What was it, a couple of games ago?
Yeah, it was.
He tried to score again, didn't he? And this time he meant it. And like, even Oggy was, he meant it this time, didn't he? And it's like, well, that's crazy to do that. Obviously, the shooting from the halfway line is more beautiful stuff. But also, I'm still furious about him getting booked anyway, that other day, where he got booked for having a shot. You know, that one
that was really fucking poor refereeing, wasn't it? Yeah.
It just winds me up. I don't like injustice at the best of times, but when it's like he didn't do anything wrong, he literally didn't see the guy, and he gets booked for it, and yet you're not allowed to complain because it's a yellow card, and it's like, well, he's given it, and it's just, I guess you open a can of worms if you're starting to appeal kind of yellow cards, but still, that was not a yellow card. It annoyed me, something chronic. Yeah, so my moment of the week, or the moment of the period, was just him doing all this really enjoyable stuff.
I mean, mine is as well, but I am going to throw a second thing in there, which is, I think the other player that has come on leaps and bounds over that period is Ostergaard, isn't it? So
yes, he has.
Is when we signed him, is that there was that kind of massive outpouring of adoration from the St. Pauli fans from last season, wasn't there? And I think over the first sort of handful of games, there was a level to which you sort of thought, that's fine, I'm glad that you liked him, but he does just seem like a sort of run-of-the-mill championship defender, which is good. That's not a criticism, that's what we needed. And actually, as the season's gone on, and specifically since the last time we podcasted, he does seem to have stepped up quite considerably, doesn't he? So I don't even think he would necessarily be better than Hyam, but that actually now you look at a player that's having really significant impact in both boxes, and he's having just a great old time. Not only that, but it is great just to see a big brave boy like that sometimes, isn't it?
What a big deal he is from attacking set pieces as well. It's
big
just,
time.
I mean, it's crazy how much of a threat he is. I mean, we've been used to it. Obviously, Dublin back in the day was a threat, but it just seems like they can just drop the ball in his vague area, and he is just going to tomahawk his way towards it every single time. And you kind of saw it in those early games, and like you say, he had a little bit of a dip in performance. I don't know whether it was just a little bit tiredness or something, but yeah, he's come back, and it's just basically hammer to him from corners all the time. That will do me. I think that should be our tactic. He's got something about him from those corners.
That is our tactic.
Well, it is
that is
literally our tactic.
More. Have I just solved us again? I'm doing this a lot recently. Yeah. Brilliant.
But I think there are certain players that I think it's very difficult to gauge a human being's strength, like strength, not like a sort of characteristic, on a football field. Like you can get if you've got some tiny winger who can get knocked off the ball easily, that's one thing. But the players when you watch him and Biamu, is you think you could do a big press up, couldn't you? Like you could, do you know what I mean? Is that you think there's got to be a reason that you two are getting to this first every single time? Like you must just be horrible to touch and to have a jump against. I remember Gary Monk saying that he broke a finger because he ran into Wilfred Bonney, and you think some people are just really strong, aren't they?
Really, really solid.
Like not only are they strong, like they could do a big lift. Like, just, they must be made out of steel. Do you know what I mean? I think that Ostergaard has got a bit of that. Because there's lots of big lads, but you can't... Somebody was like... I think somebody on Twitter said, how has nobody worked out that what's happening is Hammer is just, like, floating balls in and, like, directly to Ostergaard. And I think the problem is that his delivery is so good and he's so strong that it doesn't matter that you know what's happening. Like, what exactly are you going to do about it? Which is, it's just a great old time. Right, Paul, we're giving you the unenviable task of leading this charge by going through the games one by one. Now, before anybody turns off, we're going for a paragraph on each. That's not meant to be a slot on you, Paul, but that Christ knows that this has been a long and let's call it mixed run of games. So we just are going to try and sort of go for the highlights of every one of them and then sort of talk more generally about the situation overall, aren't we? So where were we last? I think we were...
start with Birmingham. We start with the tenants versus landlord derby.
So did we
What
talk
happened
about the
after that?
Cardiff game?
The Cardiff game is after this. The last one I believe we discussed was the last one I was on anyway. I thought we haven't done one since the international break. I might have missed it. I was going to start with the Birmingham game because that's the start of the run. So if we're going over old ground...
Well, hang on a second. No, what was the last game we talked about? I'm not sure we did Norwich.
I didn't do that pod.
I don't think we did Norwich, did we? Because
I want to start with Birmingham because the Birmingham
guys.
game...
Let's start with Birmingham then.
Thank you. You can see the production value.
Guys.
The Birmingham game.
Guys.
Jesus. It's the start of this 9-game run we're about to discuss, which included 8 games unbeaten, and that unbeaten run started at home against Birmingham. And
Hang a second. Whoa. No, it's not. We drew 1-1 against Norwich and we beat Cardiff 1-0.
After we played Birmingham.
You're right. Yeah, you're
Birmingham
right.
is the first game.
My bad. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it upside down.
You're making me look stupid.
No, you're right. I do apologise.
Right. Because you're on the BBC website, has it in a weird order. So I got onto Soccer Base, where it gives me a little bit more information. Anyway, the Birmingham game, if everyone can remember that far back, talking about Hammer, is when we played Hammer on the right hand side of a sort of 3 behind the striker.
Oh Christ, yeah.
Yes. When we played Birmingham, we played 4 at the back, and then we played Hammer on the right hand side, and we drew 0-0, and it was fucking turgid. Luckily, Djukovic kept missing chances. That's the only, according to Soccer Base, we had 1 shot on target and 2 shots off target. That was a thrilling game, but it got us a 0-0 draw.
Can I just say, is it the worst game? What was the last time we had a bad?
It's not the worst game in this run.
Okay, well I'll let you come on to that. I'm not sure there's a worst game in this run, is there?
Yes, we played Luton. The Luton game is the worst game in this run.
Are you sure?
Yes, the Luton game, there was 1 shot on target for both teams.
Okay.
The Luton game was truly mind-numbingly boring as hell. At least the Birmingham game had the advantage of Birmingham missing 3 decent chances.
Yeah.
The Luton game doesn't even... I can't remember a single thing about the Luton game. So that was the Birmingham game, which started us off on that unbeaten run. We then played Cardiff, who we beat 1-0 with a Tyler Walker goal, which no one saw because the iPlayer was showing a replay of something else.
Oh, yeah.
I don't blame them.
I know you don't blame them, but the other thing we need to talk about...
Why haven't they not... Why can't they be blamed?
Because they then showed it almost immediately afterwards, after the event. But Cardiff, they took a goal kick. iPlayer showed a replay, and then when you watch it back, the sequence of events that led to the goal was really quick, wasn't it?
Plus, you got the replay was showing the only chance of the game up to that point, which was Hammer header.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't mind. It's this replay thing that they've got where they can't cut off from the replay. This is what winds me up. It's like you have to commit to the replay. And it's like, well, that's bad because surely you can just say, well, something big is happening now. Let's take this replay off. But it's like, no, they're committed, and we've got 10 seconds of vague header rather than goal. It's like that's what seems weird to me.
I know. I think there was it. I reckon if you sat behind the gantry and you watched what I imagine is one person doing that job, you'd be like, I'm so sorry that I've ever criticised anything that you've ever done, because it must be a nightmare trying to cut that all together. Just must be an absolute death sentence.
The other thing, sorry, I should have mentioned about the Birmingham game, is Liam Kelly came back into the starting 11, who has been magnificent since he's returned, and really has been one of the key cornerstones of that unbeaten run. So I just thought I'd throw that in because, Liam Kelly deserves a lot of love. The other thing that happened in the Cardiff game, in the 89th minute, was one of the Cardiff players, whose name escapes me because I really don't care, took Morosi out, and
Oh,
That
yeah.
was a big issue because that gave Ben Wilson his first minutes in goal. Well, he came and caught the ball and everyone loved him. But at this point, we were still playing Jordan Shipley, if anyone can remember who he is. And the games were not very entertaining, but we did win that one. And we kept another clean sheet. So that was 2 clean sheets on the bounce. Everything's all good. Going against top of the table Norwich, who had half their team out injured, and we had half our team out injured. And we started with quite a strange team with Bakayoko up front. I mean, we went back to 3. We went back to 5 at the back. No, Ostergaard. Yeah, we played 3 at the back, didn't we? Went back to playing 3-5-2, or 3-5, whatever, with Bakayoko up front on his own. I didn't watch this one because I was umming and ahhing about it, and then I saw the team with Bakayoko up front and thought, I really can't be flogged for that.
Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. Ben Wilson gave away a penalty, and then we equalised in the 89th minute with Biame, who came on as a sub. This was a game where, again, we dropped Hamer, but we made, I think it's the only time we made all 5 changes.
Yeah, it is.
And from everyone, some people's accounts, according to this, we had 9 shots off target. So in this game, we had 13 shots, which I think is more than we've had in about 4 of the other games. But yeah, we got a 1-1 draw against top of the table Norwich, having been behind. So that was probably the most respectful result in the whole of this.
I wasn't happy with that penalty again.
No,
Sorry.
I wasn't happy with that penalty.
My role in this is going to be whinging about the things that I remember.
That's fine. That was the whole point of this.
I can play that role well, I think. And yeah, it's just also, just crap decision. He got the ball so totally true. And it's just, how many penalties are we giving away in this run? It's like 3, isn't it, or something?
I think it's another 3 in this run, but I'm not happy with the Ben Sheaf one either. Weirdly, I've been the first to complain about penalties given away, and I'm not. And I think Sheaf hasn't been amazing all season, but I'm not sure you can totally blame. I mean, all he did was just stand next to a man, really, and that was yeah. So I agree with you. I also think that I've got to be honest with you. I watched this game on my phone rather than sat sort of really fully taking it in. And I just thought we played well in this game. I thought a bit like in the Reading game is that we looked. I came into it thinking I think we could be in real big trouble here, and we just weren't, were we? If anything, I felt like if we'd have equalised a little bit sooner, it was only really going to be us that would have won it in the end. And I think the narrative, like you say, was about Norwich being completely overwhelmed by injuries, but then, like you say, it's not like we had our first team out.
I agree. We played. We went back to a flat back 4 again. For some reason, Soccer Base likes putting Hamer in defence, but obviously he wasn't in defence. And then, against Derby went 4 at the back. I lie. Against Derby, bottom of the table Derby at that point, I think, or in complete basket mode Derby. But again, wasn't the best game. Derby probably edged it. They took the lead. They then missed an absolute sitter in about the 91st minute. And then, as alluded to earlier by Neil, Hamer equalised from just outside the area on a half volley.
I love that finish.
Correctly?
It's a beautiful
I thought that was
finish,
that was incredible, because if you think about it, actually, we have that shot quite a lot. We have other people when it drops to Sheaf or it drops to someone else, and they always balls it up. But yeah, you just think, I fancy you to do this. Because actually, didn't Godden have something similar? It was dropping to him the other day, and he basically cannoned it right over the bar, which was fine. But yeah, it just goes to show how
he didn't let it
difficult...
fall far enough, did he?
Exactly, and it just goes to show just how difficult it is when you've got the opportunity, and especially there, you've got the opportunity to get an equaliser. That's all it's going to be. You've got one chance, and he didn't do anything daft with it. He just let it drop, made sure he got a clean strike on it, and good Gustavo.
But it wasn't the best of games. We sort of got away with that one. I thought, from what people were saying, we were unlucky against Norwich. We got away with one against Derby because they really should have scored in the 91st minute before we equalised. But that was the game where Callum O'Hare probably should have got a penalty for being kicked by the goalkeeper in the same way we'd given away a penalty against Norwich, which is probably the last thing that Callum O'Hare did, which is worthy of note. And that was
it just
5
felt like
games ago.
It just felt like a draw to me, though.
That's fair enough.
The whole game just felt like a draw all the way through to me, which I know is the least insight that anyone has ever provided into a football match. But when we conceded, it just felt really cruel. Like, what's it like? You just think, if we'd have scored, I would have felt like we are stealing this, and it's brilliant. But when they scored, I just thought, this is 2 shit teams playing each other.
I get that. I think the thing is, because when they took the lead and then they had an absolute sitter to make it 2-0, It's sort of, once you've been in that position, you've got to. I mean, if you go back to the Birmingham game, I agree but that was one of the games where you just like, these are two teams in a desperate relegation fight. There was nothing in that game which sort of gave you any hope of anything. With the Derby game, you got the feeling that it doesn't surprise that Derby have gone on a half decent run after that game. I thought they weren't as bad as I thought they were gonna be, which is a bit of a worry. But I didn't see I saw a team that was starting to sort of find itself in that game. Out of all the games, I thought that was one of the better games. I didn't think that was particularly the worst of the games that was there.
No. By the way, on that game, just as a sort of general point to raise separately, how many like gifts from God have we had over this period? By the way, of like the chances that people have missed against us.
But I said that on Twitter the other day. And I said that after the game against Sheffield Wednesday. We're a team of fine margins. You go back to that Birmingham game, Djukovic. I think of his 3 chances, the first was the absolute sitter, and he missed that. If he'd have scored that
header?
The header where he came at the far post, he should have scored that. There's no, I'd put quite a bit of money on Djukovic scoring that. The other 2 chances were very difficult, but that was the sitter. We didn't have any chance in that game of that quality. Cardiff, as you say, our goal is a complete fluke. But, as I said, you earn that. Against Norwich, as I said, from what everyone said, we should have won that game. That could have gone in our favour. The Derby game, I said, if Callum O'Hare wins the penalty when it's 0-0, we go 1-0 up. That's a completely different borderline. I think when games are so one goal in it, then every missed opportunity seems... You sort of remember every missed opportunity, because if you'd have scored that one goal, you'd have won. I mean, the only game where that isn't true is the Rotherham game, where we played 2 up top with Biamu alongside Walker, and Biamu just ran amok. I mean, of all the teams you'd have thought would have been able to deal with Max Biamu, Rotherham would have been quite high on that list, I would have thought, basically being a League One side most of the time. Playing against a big striker shouldn't have fazed them as much as it did. But Rotherham just couldn't cope, and we scored twice within 12 minutes. And once we were 2-0 up, Rotherham just didn't have enough about them to get anywhere near it. I now see that Ostergaard goal has been removed from and given as a Michael Smith own goal. Yeah.
Oh,
and then
that makes sense, doesn't it?
Who gave away the penalty against Rotherham? Was that another Wilson job?
No, I think that was the Ben Sheaf one, wasn't it?
I thought the Ben Sheaf one was Wickham.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, Rotherham got a penalty and they scored. But Rotherham looked really bad that day. I mean... But even then, we still only had 6 shots. We scored with our first 2. And I know that's sort of an obvious thing to say, you want to score. But we had 43% of the possession against Rotherham. Rotherham was a very strange game.
They never recovered, did they?
No.
They just effectively, it's weird how teams react, but they sort of just gave up, didn't they?
And then we retained the 2 up top for our next home game, which was the Luton game. Anyway, yeah, the Luton game. And then we played... I mean, I can't remember anything about the Luton game. I've got to be honest.
I'll be honest with you. I've got a cede to your sort of superior sort of judgment here, Paul, because the one that sticks out for me for being bad was Birmingham. But I watched that Luton game, and I literally couldn't tell you a single thing about it. Whereas I remember that the Birmingham game was bad, but the Luton game is like it's gone. Like,
it didn't happen. It just didn't happen.
I don't remember anything about it.
And the thing is, it's one of those things where there is a... You get to that point where it's like, is football entertainment? And the answer to that is, it depends. It depends what you're looking for. We want to survive, and we're not bothered how we do it. And Robbins and AD have decided that we're going to Sam Allardyce this. We're going to be so solid at the back that we're going to stay up by pure just will of force, rather than being a really good football team, which is fine.
Yeah. By the way, let's be clear. I'll totally take that. Yeah.
Yeah, and and it's like it's a 0-0 draw at home to Luton, and that's whether or not it's a good result will only be known in May if we stay up or whenever the end of the season is. Because at the time it felt, it is a bit of a. We played the weaker teams in this run, and we're probably a win or two short, to be perfectly honest. Because, we played Birmingham at home, we played Luton at home, we played Derby, we played Sheffield Wednesday, we played Huddersfield. We played some teams that we probably need to be picking up points more than 1 point against. But if we stay up, then the 0-0 draw, no one's ever going to care. But to think we're going to try and talk about that for more than 30 seconds, and I know we really have, it's not happening. If you want to watch the highlights, knock yourselves out. And then we had the Liam Kelly, the game against Wickham, where he scored a really good goal.
What a goal that was, by the way.
Sorry, I think we have to go back before the goal, 3 minutes, to when he took Jordan Shipley off. I don't actually know why. I'm assuming it was a mercy mission of just like, I've got Hamer sat with me on the bench, and I've got Jordan Shipley on the pitch. So there's something wrong about this. There's just
so
something
this is the game I missed.
wrong about this.
I think I missed this. What happened? This makes me sound a bad fan, but what happened there? Sorry, you say 3 minutes he took Jordan Shipley off?
No, not 3 minutes. It was about 30 minutes.
3 minutes before the goal. Yeah, it was 3 minutes before the goal. Basically, the game wasn't a good game. And Wickham were, marginally looking more threatening. If it's like two bold men fighting over a comb can look like one of them needs a haircut, it was pretty bad. But as I said, I think he must have just sat there and went, "The fuck am I doing? I've got this guy on the bench sat here twiddling his dick. This isn't."
But Jordan Shipley was making like the performances from Jamie Allen earlier this season that we'd criticised, where he was a non-event. He'd made them look like Beckham in the 2000 Euros. Do you know what I mean? Shipley was. I genuinely had forgot he was on the pitch. And I know that's a sort of a constant. Oh, I forgot he was on the pitch. Really, genuinely, don't remember him touching the ball in that half an hour. But I think we all assumed that he had got some sort of strain or pull or something, and that was what had caused him to go off, because it's unusual to see a player take. But in the fullness of time, as you think, I'm not actually sure. And what's disappointing for Shipley, a player that, by the way, I like and that I'm not having a go at, especially, what's got to be disappointing for Shipley is that the turnaround, it literally instantly was crazy. And again, I know we're jumping forward a little bit, but again, we've lost against Sheffield Wednesday, and Harmer's not there. And I think some people might look at our kind of lavish praise over Harmer and say, actually, you're probably over egging the pudding. But I'm not sure we are. Like, I think really
not with him.
I think this team is basically him at the minute, isn't it?
Well, and the other thing is, Kelly, obviously he scored a great goal, and then he should have gone off injured. We're talking about God smiling on us, and they kept him on. And I can't remember Liam Kelly ever being anywhere near a corner, let alone being in the 6-yard box, let alone diverted and shot him from like 3 yards out from inside the 6-yard box from a corner. So it's fair to assume if Kelly had gone off injured, well, he wouldn't have been there. If Kelly had been fully fit, it's unlikely he would have been stuck there.
No, let's face it. There was no point, given that he was immobile, there was no point in him defending that corner. So you might as well just put him in the box and hope it drops to him. And then, then it did, curiously, yeah.
And the point of keeping him on the pitch was because we didn't want to take him. We didn't want to waste a sub, I guess, during play.
Yeah,
is that it?
Because that's the thing, is you can only make 3 substitutions. Even though you can make 5 subs, you can only use them in 3 different spells, but you can make as many as you want at half time.
And we'd already subbed Shipley off.
Yeah, we'd already made a sub after 31 minutes for Shipley. So he could only literally make, if you took Kelly off after 38 minutes, he could only make 1 more sub in the second half.
Yeah, 1 triple substitution.
So basically he held him on. And it worked in our favour. I think since then, since the half time against Wickham, well, Wickham scored in the second half with the penalty, which is the Sheaf one, which is debatable. They were, I think the people who are like, no, it was definitely offside, the goal they scored in the 90th minute. I don't know how anyone can tell that.
Yeah, it is impossible, isn't it?
the linesman doesn't put his flag straight away. The linesman runs off, which I think is very, you watch it, you're like, normally, Joey will know, Joey stood with me, and I look at the linesman quite quickly, and it was like, because I saw the linesman run off, it was like, oh, okay, no, they've scored, and then it was offside. It was like, oh, okay, well, that's, I don't know, I can't tell. I'm really happy they're giving it offside, but I can't categorically say it was. But I think we probably did deserve. Probably. I think we did deserve to win that game. We were the better side for the 15, 20 minutes where we had Kelly and Hamer next to each other. And then since then, with Kelly being out, we obviously played the Huddersfield game. Again, it was 0-0. Again, I'm struggling to remember anything that happened. Hamer had his shot when O'Hare played him through. And
I can't tell how close that was. It looked really close. It looked like Pele's chance. When Pele tried to score from the halfway line, it was like that.
Oh, which one we go? We're going back to the Wickham Hamer shot, or are we going against the Huddersfield one when he was just outside the area and ballooned over the bar?
Oh no, I'm thinking about the one from the halfway line. When did that happen?
The one from the halfway line hit the post.
Yeah.
So
it hit the post.
Yeah. So it's about as close as it gets. But I think Paul was talking about an effort from the outside the area against Wickham. Huddersfield, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, where we counter-attacked. And then the Huddersfield lad went round our goalkeeper and either should have passed it to his teammate to score or scored in the big open goal. And Huddersfield missed their sitter.
Well, or, he could have, in theory, passed to someone that was running in from outside. It seemed like that he had maybe 10 different options in which to make that a goal, because it just seemed so inconceivable that you wouldn't score somehow, and yet didn't. I completely had resigned myself to the fact that that was a goal. I had to watch it about 50 different times to work out how he hadn't scored it. It was bizarre to me. Did no one else find that incredibly weird that didn't go in? It's the sort of thing that doesn't really happen in football. Just
sort of thing happens to us.
I just enjoyed it.
I couldn't get my head around it. It was, if you think about if I know XG gets derided, but if you think about sort of football on a sort of statistical likelihood basis, he had so many different opportunities to score it.
That's like a 2, is it?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah. It was really baffling to me that. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, carry on, Paul.
And the only other thing to note in that is obviously the 89th minute yellow card of Hamer, who was trying to have a shot.
The problem is with a player like that is if you are the worst disciplined player in the league, when you get a 50-50 decision, it's probably going to go one way, innit?
Yeah.
His reputation must precede him by now.
Foul, yeah.
We've got the benefit of the replays and the referee hasn't. It's just a terrible decision, but I don't really blame the referee for it. I think you've probably got to make a decision and then that's that. But it was, with the benefit of looking at a load of replays, it was a cack decision.
And then obviously that led
and as well, bear in mind that we're talking about a 9-game stretch here or whatever. I think he probably warrants a 2-game ban. Like, that might not have been the foul that warranted it, but overall,
he's due, isn't he? Yeah.
He's not been an angel over that period, and then he's just had a 2-game
banning, isn't
he? Maybe in the same way that we were watching it and thinking, if he can just get through this last 5 minutes, then we'll be fine. Maybe the referee was just like, if he gets through this last 5 minutes without fouling someone, this guy's not even going to get banned.
I'm not going to be the guy.
And then obviously, so he was then banned for the Sheffield Wednesday Thrill Fest, where, talking about XG, according to XG, we should have scored. We were better against Sheffield Wednesday. Apparently, we should have scored 2 goals. I can't remember being really frustrated with any of our misses, but I could be, unless someone could remind me of something. There was Gordon's chance, but the Gordon's chance was really hard.
No chance. No.
Yeah, there was the Biami one that sort of didn't hit Biami, but did hit Biami where their player cleared it off the line.
Oh, it hit the post, didn't it? Yeah.
But again, I don't really see that. as an XG chance, it's sort of what the chances of your player bumbling it in off his arse from a yard. Oh, okay, that makes it sound like it's really high, but if you watch it, it isn't. That's he's literally spinning round, isn't he? It's an odd. But anyway, Sheffield Wednesday scored because Wilson, then Ostergaard slightly fucked up, and then had a free header at the back post.
Was it Ostergaard or was it was Bakayoko let him go, wasn't it?
No, I mean for the free kick.
Oh, you mean the free kick? Yeah. He was all over the place.
Yeah, I mean Bakayoko. You watch it. To be fair to Bakayoko, he's marking 3 men. If we're being fair to Bakayoko, it's up to you. I mean, someone was like, when we took off Biamu after 73 minutes to bring on Godden, and part of you was like, I know Bakayoko only came on after 42 minutes, but has he really done enough in the 31 minutes he's been on the pitch to retain his place? Probably not.
Can I just say, I'm not sure how many football podcasts there are where our main correspondent, one, covers 9 games or whatever it's been in one 36-minute period, but also is using stats from a website that, whilst he's using them, disputes them at the same time. So you were saying there, this says we had the higher XG, but I'm not having that.
Oh, it's a different website.
Incorrect.
It's a different website with the higher XG. I think I honestly, for the life of me, can't remember a sort of chance where the player's got the ball at his feet or his head in front of goal where you think he's actually going to score that.
I saw
O'Hare have anything in the 6-yard box? I can't remember. That tends to be our best source of chances, isn't it?
I got in trouble. I can't remember who it was against. It was a while ago now because he kept missing chances in the 6-yard box. And then it's like up. I think, was it Derby? He missed like 2 against someone. And it was like, I was like, he's the worst player I've ever seen in the 6-yard box. And he's like, what about Kevin Kyle? And it's like, he was just shit all over the pitch.
Yeah.
I'm being very specific here about being inside the 6-yard box.
Is he not also? Bear in mind that I'm not saying this to disagree with you, Paul. I actually agree with you. But is he not also the player with the highest woodwork hits in Europe at the moment?
Is he?
Wow.
I believe he's hit the post of the bar 5 times so far this season, which puts him top in the top 5 leagues in the Championship, which is quite often a way that kind of people lies, damn lies, and statistics things. But he individually this season has hit the post of the bar 5 times, which means that, and I don't believe, and I'd like to be corrected on it if I can be, that but that equally it tells half a story. There's also a load of things that he's missed in the 6-yard box where he's not hit the post of the bar.
See, interestingly, that's my previous point. My previous point against Derby was when he got taken out for what probably could have been a penalty was the last decent thing he did, because also in that move where might be he didn't get the penalty, he hit the post. And I don't think he's hit the post in the 5 games since, because I don't think he's done much in the 5 games since. And I like Callum O'Hare, as you well know, but I'm looking at Callum O'Hare going, is he doing a lot at the moment? And I know I sort of read Dom's piece after the Sheffield Wednesday game. I don't disagree with it in terms of we are asking him to do a lot. My question is he doing enough?
Yeah.
And my answer to that is probably no, he's not. Now, the biggest problem we've got is you look at the people we can bring in to replace him, and they're Castaneer. So it's just like, well, should we just keep O'Hare? And if I'm going to be defensive of O'Hare, which I feel like he should be at this point, I don't think he's ever started this many games in the league season before.
Yeah.
So it's a big season for O'Hare, and I do have that as a mitigating factor. I'm not slagging off O'Hare in terms of I think he's a good player. I just don't think he's playing particularly well, but I don't think we're getting the best out of him at the moment. And I do see a player who I think is struggling a bit at the moment. And for me, I'd play Giles ahead of him if we can't bring Giles in at left back, because I think Giles gives us something. Which
that was one of the questions we got, actually, was where's Giles gone? Because he was having a decent season, and obviously you got McCallum there as well, and Robbins has shown this year that he really does want to switch it up as much as he can when he can. But there does, for me, I'm the same as you, Paul. I do. There's room for Giles in that team, I think, at the moment, especially when O'Hare's not quite firing, and Giles in an attacking formation as well. I mean, in that position, I'd quite happily give him a go because he just seems to be more comfortable. No, that's wrong actually, because he does seem comfortable on left, but there's a different kind of dimension when you kind of whack him up on the right hand side or close to the striker. So he would be my selection for our next game. Really, get him in there and see what he can do.
I also don't think McCallum's playing that well, and I got a bit of stick for that. And to be fair to McCallum, he was brilliant against Rotherham. He was really good against Rotherham. But
he was right the other day, wasn't he?
I don't. One thing I have noticed.
He started well. He had a good first half, I reckon.
Yeah.
Maybe he did fall away. Yeah.
What I do notice about McCallum is McCallum has virtually impeccable technique. If the ball's coming at him at almost any height or angle, his first touch is always really good, or at least 90% of the time he's really good. He'll control balls that you're thinking that's difficult to control. It's just, for me, he's not consistent enough with his use. And again, except first season at this level, he's a young player. He hasn't played lots of league football. I accept all of that. But I do think he's not... Against, I thought Sheffield Wednesday and Huddersfield, I thought both players who were up against him had the upper hand over him when they were pushing him backwards. I thought both of them could get at him and get past him. I thought defensively he was a bit weak in those two games. And I think he's obviously Robbins' preferred option at left back. I just think sometimes I'd like him to step up, like the way he was against Rotherham. It was stood out how good he was in that game. Like that was just his optimum, and I feel he's been a bit below that, if not substantially below that, during some of the games in this run.
Guys, let's just take a pause here for a second. I'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Just call it that nominally. That's what it is. So you'd have Wilson in goal, steady back four of Østegård, McFadden, Hyam.
Sorry, can I just butt in for a second?
Yeah.
When Morosi's fit, who starts in goal?
This is an interesting one, isn't it? Because you don't know how much of this good run of form is kind of the Reece Charles Cook effect. Well, although he was quite good, but when he came in and did 5 clean sheets in a row, and that's he's the de facto keeper. Then you saw how much of this is in spite of ourselves, and who is actually the better keeper. I think he'll probably stick with him until there's any sense of a mistake, and then he'll just do his Robbins thing and I've brought him my main keeper back again. That's what I imagine will happen.
Do you want to carry on again with your first 11 then, Neil?
First 11. So I've done my 3. Right back. Darbo, left back is an interesting one, but because what I was saying just then, McCallum will go on the left. In the middle, you'd have Harmer and to be disclosed, I don't know yet who else would go there, but then I'd quite like to see Giles in the O'Hare position at the moment, and then up front Biamu and Walker, so somebody in the middle as well. I mean, I don't dislike O'Hare, and actually I think as ineffective as he's been a lot of the time, because he's mainly been getting fouled and kind of on the floor and whinging, he still strikes you as a threat, and he still seems a bit of a cog between everything that's happening. But for now, I would like to just have a little go at Giles. I guess in midfield, for some solidity alongside O'Hare, you probably have to say Sheaf, wouldn't you? But I'm still not entirely convinced, because he's not Liam Kelly, and that's what I want there.
Paul?
The Sheaf one's interesting, because I saw someone earlier defending going, you've got an 80% pass completion rate. It's like,
so is that keeper?
Yeah, I'm going to say you put me in central midfield against a team that doesn't press, and I'll have 100% pass completion rate. I'll just pass it to fucking Dominic Hyam, Carl McFadden, and Østegård. That's basically what Sheaf does. I mean, Sheaf's issue isn't his pass completion rate. His issue is he's quite a passive footballer. When you compare him to Liam Kelly, who's his obvious comparison, Kelly's just more dynamic. He makes things happen. He pushes the game forward. He's eager to sort of make things happen, while Sheaf is quite happy to watch things go alongside him. And he'll play the passes, but to use that word that was always used in football central midfielders, his passes aren't particularly probing. They're just, you passed it to that guy who's free. Yay? And that's where my own with Sheaf. It's like, I want to see him grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck and showing some personality. And I don't think he's shown any personality so
That's a
far.
nice way of putting it. Well, not nice, but that's a useful way of putting it. I think personality is kind of the thing there. He's relatively bland. But the thing is, he is. Was it Nottingham Forest where he had an awesome game? He really stepped up, and he was in the rain a little bit, and you sort of said, okay, I can get on board with this player because he strode on into the match and he really kind of imposed himself. But he just hasn't done that since. Again, he's had bits here and there, but yeah, I think that's exactly it. It's just nothing really about him, which is odd for somebody who's supposed to be so technically gifted, and kind of I'm sure Robbins likes him for many reasons, and one of those is probably I bet he's awesome in training. But I think we need, especially when you're alongside Hamer, you need somebody who's going to kind of step up alongside him, I think.
I think to me he reminds me terribly of Fleck in that League One season under Mowbray, where you would look at him sometimes and think, wow, what a terrific player, and you would look at him sometimes and think, I'm not entirely sure what you had. My gut feeling with Sheaf is that if you are a team that is largely on top, he does a lovely job of connecting everything, and when he's under pressure and needs to use the ball sensibly 100% of the time, that's where there's a problem. Because I think 80% of the time in his position is great. But for a player who is constantly playing short passes, actually, to use what you were saying there, 80% isn't spectacular. It's the same as the keeper being able to pass out to his defence short, isn't it? And the problem constantly is that he reminds me of a little bit of a further up the field Carl McFadzean. That there are too many instances during a game where you think you've used that ball so poorly in a position where you're... One, it should be a low risk use of the ball. You've got a lot of players around you. You've got the defence behind you, and you've got other midfielders or forward players or wide players around you. Your job really is to recycle it accurately. And I think too often the ball goes astray. But I think that you can see a decent player in there. And I think also it's difficult to be that player in a team that is not attacking all the time. Do you know what I mean? I think we're asking a lot of him.
There is an argument that he needs to be. He needs that. We need that solidity in there, I guess. But maybe are we being too greedy of him? If maybe that is the role he's supposed to be playing.
The problem is that comparatively, is you've got Kelly, who is very warhorsey and is more reliable, and you've got Harmer, who is top level championship. And so he, by comparison, on top of everything else, he does stand out like a sore thumb, doesn't he?
For me, I think it's the same issue. He has the same issues that O'Hare has, where they're fine, but we're asking them to be better than fine. We're asking them to be good, or we're asking them to actually have a bigger impact on the game. And I think it's a lot for them because it's the first time at this level, and we're putting a lot of responsibility on them, and we're asking them to be the main linchpins of the side. And I'm not sure either of them are quite ready for that yet. I think they both would like someone more senior alongside them to take some of the actual impact off them. So O'Hare only has to do half the amount of work he's doing, but he can do it in a more considered and concise way. And it's a bit like that with Sheaf. When Kelly's alongside him, the amount of times you saw Kelly covering for the defence and getting around the pitch, it's quite hard for Sheaf to do that. You need to, Kelly has really, I think we sort of forget how much Kelly's developed over the 4 years he's been here. From when he first joined in League Two, we weren't quite sure what he was. And it took him a while to sort of get out from Doyle's shadow. And then he's gone from strength to strength. When Doyle left, you were like, well, that's fine because Kelly's really stepped up. And last season, again, Walsh wasn't at his best until Kelly was alongside him, because Kelly can do a lot of the work and he can move the ball. He's both defensive and offensive. He can get around the pitch. Sheaf is more of a natural sitter. My worry with Sheaf is he reminds me more of Stephen Hughes than anyone else. He will just take the easy option. And I don't get the Fleck bit about him. It's like you knew with Fleck that if the penny dropped with Fleck was going to be a hell of a player. The worry was it didn't seem to be dropping. With Sheaf, I'm yet to be convinced that there's a penny to drop that he's going to really be brilliant. I just think he's going to be okay. He'll have a good career. but I don't see, I don't see a brilliant player there. I see one that's as I said, fine at this time. Whether or not he'd be better than that, I don't know. With O'Hare, he's a player I see the penny's going to drop at some point, and you'll be like, fuck, he's really good. But again, it's frustrating because he makes the same mistakes. And the thing about him being fouled, I find really weird because he just seems to get fouled in really obscure, innocuous areas. Like I don't think he's won a penalty this season. He doesn't seem to win many around the penalty area. He gets fouled on, like in the right wing back position and that sort of place. His whole game needs to be further up the pitch. He needs to be sort of making those things happen, which is why I would take him out. I'd play Giles as much. I think just because I think Giles is quite direct, and I think if you look at Stoke, I think they've scored one of the least and conceded one of the least.
That's right, yeah.
The game against Stoke, I don't think it's going to be another thrill fest. I think it's going to be a game that's potentially won. I understand also they're playing tomorrow night in the League Cup. Is that correct?
Who, Stoke?
Yeah.
Well, I know that Brentford played tonight, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know whether Stoke are in the cup, but the cup is happening now, yeah.
So if they're playing tomorrow night, they haven't got much of a turnaround time before they play us on Saturday. I suppose it's Wednesday to Saturday.
It's pretty normal,
is it?
yeah.
They're playing Spurs, so whether or not they put a reserve team out or whatnot. But I mean, Stoke's run, they've lost 2 of the last 10 by the looks of it. 1-5, drawn 3. So they're a team oh bloody hell! I didn't realise this. The last 3 league games, you'll like this: 0-0 against Derby, 0-0 against QPR, and 1-0 against Blackburn.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the most boring games of the season.
Worth that tenner.
Yeah. But as well is that the way that they play is, I get the impression that Michael O'Neill weirdly would be quite happy with, 1 goal. If someone guaranteed him 1 goal every game for them, he'd be like, well, brilliant, because I'll back us to not concede.
Yeah, they've only conceded in 1 of the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games.
They've got, is he called Tyrese Campbell, their main striker? I think he's injured at the minute, which hasn't helped them. But
also in that run, they drew 0-0 with Sheffield Wednesday. They beat Wycombe 1-0. They drew 0-0 with Derby, and they drew 0-0 with QPR.
Yeah, but they are those guys, yeah.
Yeah, they're playing all the shit around us, but they're on a Lee Clark sort of unbeaten run. Oh, blimey. Oh, Boxing Day's coming in. Fucking hell. Jesus, I didn't realise it was going to be that bad. Anywho, so yeah,
let's dip into the post bag and then wrap things up for people, shall we? Who is in control of the post bag today?
It's me as always. Okay. Right. Patrick Andrews at Patrick Andrews asks McCallum or both, like McCallum or Giles or both.
Have we done a bit of that?
We've done it, haven't we?
I think that I would play Giles. This is probably the dumbed down version of what you were saying earlier. I think that with the way that we've rotated and the way that the season's gone, I would play Giles in the games that we wanted to win and McCallum in the games that we were hoping to get a point in.
Very
nice.
Ian James at Ian James _M. Why did it take so long for them to bring Kelly into the team?
Wasn't he coming back from injury, or
was that just? Yeah.
He was. He was on the bench for a lot. Like I said, there was a game where we were winning or drawing, and you were like, "Just bring Kelly on for the last 15," and we didn't. And he was just like, there was quite a few like that where he was just. Was it the Middlesbrough game? No, it was the Forest game. Then it was Watford, wasn't it? And both of those, we could have held on for a draw, but in neither of them we brought Kelly on. So whether or not, and obviously he's broken down again. So whether or not they were just giving him as long as they possibly could to get back to full fitness, and he's still broken down, I don't know.
Very quickly, I've got an Ian James story, if you'll allow me.
I'm all ears.
About a month ago, I got a DM from Ian James. Hi, Ian. Who recommended the podcast called Under the Cosh. Have either of you two heard of that podcast?
Oh.
He said that Luke Steele had been on it and had been a really good listen. And I listened to it, and lo and behold, It was a really brilliant listen.
God's sake.
it was a really interesting, and as a result of that, I listened to a few other episodes of it, and all of them were really good, largely from ex-Cov people. I've got Ian Dowie lined up as the last ex-Cov one, and then I'm going to draw a line under it. And
so would you describe them as award-worthy? Probably. Yeah.
So, yeah, when I heard that they had beaten us in the Football Content Awards, I did look through and think, oh yeah, they probably deserved it. But it would be much better for me to have been doing what I normally do, which is to be sort of passively aggressive about the people that had beat us. But I sort of, when you you said, oh, we've lost again. I was like, okay, who beat us? And you were like, under the cosh. I was like, yeah, they probably would deserve it.
That was upsetting and all. That was really upsetting because, I tell you what, it was upsetting because obviously we couldn't go, which wasn't any good. Yeah. But also they did it online. So I kind of like sat and watched it with my half, and we were kind of, okay, we're in an award ceremony, this could be quite fun. And then they did the first award, and then they immediately cut to the winner of the award with a pre-recorded message. And I was sat there thinking, right, well, we haven't been after the pre-recorded message, have we? So we're definitely not won anything. And it's like when I when I failed my first driving test and I stalled at the first corner, you've then got to do a whole hour driving knowing that you failed. I just sat there watching and thinking, well, we haven't won anything, have we? But so they could have done a bit. I kind of, like the romanticist in me kind of thought that maybe you'd secretly been asked to record a message and you'd pop up. So I still did sit and watch, and lo and behold, you were not there.
Not there. But then saying that, when you
Luton game as well.
Well, that was the thing, is that
God, that must be the worst night.
What a night!
And that I had to originally it was me trying to corral us all to watch both of them together, and then when I realised that the awards were at like 5:30 or something, is I was like, I've never finished work that early.
Perfect timing.
So unlucky guys. So thank you, Ian James, and also no thank you, Ian James. Paul, that was your cue there to pick back up with the next question. Are you looking through the rest of them, or am I?
No.
I got loads of questions because we're multi-channel now.
Neil, hit us with one of your questions then.
Let's do something. I don't understand a lot of them. They're all kind of punny, and that's unusual for me not to understand them. But we'll go. What would you buy Mark Robbins for his birthday? Interesting. Is it a birthday today, by the way?
Yeah, it is his birthday today,
Mark.
yeah.
Many happy returns, Mark. I would buy him some fashion pumps because he seems to enjoy his good pumps at the moment, doesn't he? So I think he'd enjoy a new pair of those.
Yeah, new tabard.
Yes, I do enjoy that reference.
I'll buy him a striker. With the vast funds we make from doing the podcast, I'll go out and buy him a striker.
Fantastically, humorlessly literal approach from you there, Paul.
We expected anything different.
Wonderful broadcasting. I'd buy him a striker because he needs a striker.
Brilliant. He does need a striker, and I need.
Podcast
as well. I don't think he does need a striker.
I need him to have a new striker, or at least a new number 10
in replacement.
Oh, you're one of those gift givers, are you?
Hang on a second.
All for you.
Yeah. So hang on a second. Your Mark buying Jeremy Tongs. Why do we need a new striker?
Because I think we need better strikers than the ones we've got.
Than who?
Well, Walker for a start, who's again fine, but I don't think he's done anything in the last 3 games. Biamu, who was awesome against Rotherham. Yeah, Godden, he's been fine. He's been the pick of the bunch. I mean, Bakayoko. I mean, yeah, we're playing Bakayoko. I would just like a better striker. I don't think it's that hard to find a better striker than the ones we've got. I would also like a better number 10. I mean, that.
I was going to say, I'm really surprised that's your thing.
Defence is fine. Goalkeeper. I mean, Wilson's all right. I mean, defence is fine. I mean, yeah, McFadden isn't the best, but in the middle 3 of what he's doing at the moment, he's okay. The midfield, I think he's okay. It's not brilliant, but it's okay. The strikers, I just think we're pretty easy to defend against.
I think you're being a bit out of order. I'd say who I would like ideally is I would like to sign Robert Prozinecki. And I don't mean that as being...
You want to sign a 40-year-old Croatian with ginger hair.
Well, probably, but I don't mean the like new day version of him. I mean him as he is now, 50-year-old, immobile, smoking while he's playing now. But do you know what I mean? I'm surprised you're saying a striker, because I think we've talked today about Callum O'Hare being fine, but not maybe being ready yet. And I also think that people forget that he made, how many starts did he make this last season? About 13. It wasn't even like he was going up all the time last season. I think the big thing that we've got now is two things. One, we look a million times better with two up front, and I don't mind Walker and I don't mind Biamu. I think in the longness of time, he's probably they get replaced. The thing that is missing at the minute more than anything else is a number 10 for me. And I think that arguably I would like to see, if Liam Kelly's out for 3 months, which he might be, then I think maybe an absolute nutter to go next to the other absolute nutter that we've got might not be a bad idea. But I'm surprised to hear a striker, because I'd have just thought a number 10, and for me, a number 10 that is just like a old stager. Sat there, no mobility, Andy Reid, big fat lad, Charlie Adam. What's Charlie Adam doing?
Well, I sort of see what he's... But Biamu was... Did he do anything? I mean, he nearly scored with his arse against Sheffield Wednesday. Did he actually do anything other than that against Sheffield Wednesday? I said, the Rotherham game was an absolute... He was brilliant. He dominated them. After that, he played against Luton. And Luton were like, you're quite limited. And just bossed him. And we're like, yeah, you might have done that against Rotherham, but you're not doing that against us. Sheffield Wednesday weren't really that bothered by him. He had that one chance early on, didn't we? He overhit, he sort of hit it bit far in front of himself and then didn't quite put it away. But I think if I'm a defender in the Championship, I'm looking at Biamu going, I can keep you relatively quiet. And Walker's been a bit in and out. I just think one of the problems is we still don't have that decent person to lead the line.
I think for me I think the reason that Biamu has been successful coming in is that it gives us a few extra seconds when we've got the ball being played out from up top. What would be nice, I think, for Biamu would be to have someone behind him, immediately behind him, to chest or lay the ball off to, that could either then bring the wide players back in or play Biamu or Walker back through, so that you've got someone there. And as much as I like O'Hare, I'm just not convinced that he is the man now that we need to do that job. I think if we had got a better fulcrum of that overall thing, we would be able to go long in the way that has been successful for us, given the way that teams have pressed us so aggressively from the back, that they would have someone that hopefully would be more adept than O'Hare, I know that sounds harsh, but you know what I mean, to be able to then use the ball in such a way that would cause other teams problems. I think that I would be interested to see what that would look like. I agree with you. In the fullness of time, I would replace Biamu. I'm not sure I would replace Walker. I think Walker's looked really class.
Walker's looked fine at times. I think other times he's just been absolutely anonymous. And I think that's the problem. Is that if you can keep Biamu quiet, which, as I said, quite a few teams have, then I think, I personally, from what you're saying, I think you think... From what you're saying, my interpretation is that you think Biamu's playing really well. I just don't see it. I think he's had...
He wasn't he?
Well, he's had moments. But I think also against, as I said, teams like Luton and Sheffield Wednesday, they just bossed him. He's a hard-working, honest player. I don't think he's... I say this as someone who loves Biamu. From the player again, a bit like Dom Time, from the player we first saw when we first played... I think he played against Blackburn, where he just didn't look interested. To the player he is now, to the following he's got, he's brilliant. But if I was an opposing player, it'd be like...
Would you replace him with Jukovic right now? Probably you would.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's sort of... I'm not... To be honest, if you compare him to the Clive Platt we had when we had Clive Platt, I'd have Clive Platt. And I can't think of anything which emphasises my point more than the fact I'd have the Clive Platt we had in 2012.
By the way, can we clip that? Because that's the best sentence that anyone's ever uttered on this podcast. If we could have the Clive Platt we had when we had Clive Platt, I would have Clive Platt. Is about as we might as well retire now, because that is...
I'm talking about the end of career Clive Platt that we had.
Yeah.
But he was better as being the tree than I think Biamu is, because I think he won more in the air. He was someone you could... The role that you're saying that you think Biamu's playing, I don't see him doing that. But that's what the tree did. And I think you put the tree in that side, who you can basically just bang off his head. You can sort of play the ball to him. He'll control it. That's not what I'm seeing out of Biamu all the time. I see it in fits and starts, but I don't see it consistently enough, which is why I think we're sort of he's in and out of the side. I think that's because we're not confident in enough games that they're going to give us that platform. If they're not giving us the platform, then I think the idea is to keep us more solid by having the box in midfield, or having even three in midfield, because I think they're conscious of the fact that at times those two aren't providing enough, so they don't want to go with those two. That's why they're not playing all the time. I think if those two were really hitting it off and were brilliant, we'd be playing two up top every game, because that would make sense with the midfield as well.
Let's have some new questions then. Neil, have you got any more?
Yeah. First of all, I should give credit, because that's what you do, isn't it? So that one was from Ben Gilchrist, and the other one was from Pete in New Zealand. We got fans in New Zealand. If you could sign one current champ player to boost the squad, money no option, who? So current, Paul, not Clive Platt. Who will it be?
Clive and Tony?
Who's that guy who played for Reading? That tall guy up front.
Lucas Zhao?
He was awesome. Him. He's the best player I've seen so far this season. I'd have him.
Who did I like? Paul, I'm going to throw to you while I try and remember.
Don't throw to me. I'm searching the internet. you know I don't. I hate these questions because I'm never any good at them. All I'm looking for is who's Bournemouth's highest goal scorer, and I'm going to go for that.
But
fuck you lot.
By the way, let's. I'll tell you what. Let me make you some time. So, as well as Dom, who's an absolute genius for anything Football League, I read Gab Sutton's he did a pre-season preview of where he thought everyone would finish, and then he reassessed it this week, and that's brilliant. If you look on our Twitter feed, you'll be able to find it. But if you look, I think it's called Football Lab. He's a really good writer at the best of times, but this I thought was especially class. But he talked about Dominic Solanke, and it was the only bit that I didn't really agree with, and I realised that it's because I haven't watched him as much as Gab has, but he said that he's turned into a really good player, and yet every time I watch him, I think
he was rotten, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was awful against us, but I've seen him play badly a few games this season, and I think it might be confirmation bias because I expect him to be bad. I'm looking for what he does badly,
Okay.
But he was like, this guy has turned into a top class championship striker. And I read it, I was like, I'm just not sure he has.
Another watch of him, I think. Yeah.
I'll have Timu
Pukki
from. He's got 12 goals.
This isn't the first time you've heard of Timu Pukki, is it?
Yeah, do you remember he also
no.
scored some goals in the Premier League that they have these days?
Yeah, that's what I want.
You want him? That's good. That's fair.
I was asked any player I wanted. Money's no object. I'm going for the top goal scorer.
I might ridicule you and then do basically the same thing by picking Buendia. Or who's the other really good lad at Brentford? The one of the three that they kept. What's he called?
Tony?
I can't.
No.
Tony.
No. They bought Tony in, but
yeah, they sold Ben Rama and they sold the other lad, Watkins, to Villa. They kept the other guy because I just think that we would look. I think for all
Tony's
of the
got 6. Adam Armstrong. He's got 15 goals. Adam Armstrong's had more shots this season than Arsenal.
Yeah,
I'm having Adam Armstrong because he's also played for us, so he knows the deal of playing for a big club.
Hang on a second. If we can have anyone, whether they are tied to a championship club, Harvey Elliott is the best player that I've seen this season. I thought in terms of an opposition player, in fact, even in terms of anyone, full stop, I thought he was ludicrously good against us for Blackburn. Anyway,
Blackburn right wing, yeah.
We're sort of right wing, but the license to do whatever the fuck he wanted all the time. I just thought for a player that has literally just turned 18, I just thought, oh my god, there's a reason that you're going to be terrifying in the future. I thought. Do you know
who on the other side who I thought was shit?
Yeah, classic. I got there. Yeah.
Kiefer Moore at Cardiff? I thought he was dire when he played against us.
Okay.
He scored 8 goals. I know he's injured now. I think he's got quite a big injury, but he's got 8 goals, and I kept like, oh, he scored the winning goal, and it's like, okay, I'll watch. He must be good. And he was like, you're being easily dealt with by us. You're really quite poor.
It's made me realise what a good feature this would be. Is rather than kind of ones to watch, is just a weekly roundup of championship players that we see just gone. It's shite.
Yeah.
Like he could have. Like he got beat by his centre back the entire time, and it's just a bad player. So there we go.
Gordon Woodrow seems all right. I don't know anything about him, but he always seems to score for Barnsley.
I'm not sure if you look at his goal record that would be true, but I do quite like him as a player. But I know I favour kind of very bad football, for want of a way of putting it.
He got 12 in 12. He got 12 in 21 in League One, and then he got 14 in the Championship last season for a pretty struggling Barnsley team. And then he's got 7 in 16 this season for Barnsley.
You're funny that you. This is classic Paul. You went for goals per game in the first and third seasons, and when it didn't fit your narrative, is you dodged out the number of games that he played and just simply
14
settled on
40. 14 in 40. That's fine. 1 in 4.
It's not bad. Yeah,
that's fine.
Okay.
Don't you besmirch me.
He's brilliant. Is that he had a really high pass percentage that season, 80 the next season. Yeah. You'd make a fantastic politician, Paul.
Fuck you all.
Any more?
Yeah, Pete's saying, isn't it?
Paul, give us a question.
Oh, blimey, I've gone off that now.
Well, then Neil, give us a question. You'd never tell that we were out of practice.
Well, you can see. Well, that one was from Reevesy, but I don't really want to ask any more because the other one's about finding 3 COD players dead or alive, and we struggled with alive players. So I think we're going to have to we'll stick a pin in these.
Oh no, I've got a couple more. LJ Lewis Jones 04 asks if we had the budget someone play in January. Okay, we already asked that. Who would you target? Oh, okay. Who would you try and sell in January? Just a one-worder. Who would you try and offload?
Oh Christ. I honestly nobody, because I just don't think that we've been able to have. I think we've needed more players, haven't we, squad depth wise, because this season is so mental. I'm really struggling. I'm politicianing it myself now because I'm just talking in an attempt to let my brain work. But I genuinely can't think of any one player. Oh, Bakayoko. There we go. Well, can't believe that took that long. Yeah, I was just.
Honestly,
What I was about to say was I can't think of one player who is completely beyond argument, not good enough for this level. And then as I was saying that, I was like, oh, Bakayoko. It's fine, yeah. Anyone got anyone else?
I'm not sure I can be doing with Castanea much longer, to be honest. He doesn't seem like he's a bit of a novelty, isn't he?
Damn an indictment of Bakayoko that I went for him above Castanea, who...
yeah, it really is. Yeah.
It's fun. At this point, last season we were thinking, after about 4 substitute appearances, we were like, not sure about this guy. Still going for Bakayoko above that guy, yeah. Okay. Paul?
Yeah, either of those two. I don't. I feel a bit sorry for Bakayoko.
I see your contract has run out with Bakayoko.
Well, I mean, always felt he got unfair stick. You watch him in this division, and it's, he's a squad. As you say, he's a squad player. He plays half an hour here, half an hour there. So that's basically what he's been asked to do, and he does run around and he tries. Bless him. Castaneer's at the same point now, isn't he? He runs around for 20 minutes. And the thing is with Castanea, every time I look at him, I don't know what the hell he is. When he came on against Sheffield Wednesday, I wasn't even sure what position he was meant to be playing because he sort of stood nominally on the right wing, but we were playing wing backs. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it says where we are as a squad really that Castanea's getting on. So we have quite a shallow pool of talent.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think we're in a weird season where we need a much bigger... Everyone needs a bigger squad because people are getting injured and ill a lot more and everything. I think, to a certain extent, all bets are off this season, aren't they? Is that we've got... there's a lot of different variables. I don't blame... yeah.
on talking of variables, Mike Hoban at MH Hoban asks, any thoughts on getting Clark Harris back, as he could answer goal-scoring problems?
I mean, we won't. I don't think. I mean, I'd be very surprised if he signs up for a third time. That would seem like a slap to his ego.
If anyone was crazy enough to do it.
I also don't think it's true, because I don't necessarily want to see him. Whilst I accept that he's physically strong, and whilst I accept that I thought he made a good point, I just don't agree with it. He wins free kicks and everything. I don't think it's the guy that we need. I don't think, when I talk about Biamu and Ostergaard earlier, I talk about it in the same way that you would have talked about someone like Jukovic or Nathan Cameron, where you think, you're really tough. I thought Jonson Clark-Harris was more adept at being dirty. I never got the impression that he was like a really tremendous target man, so much as he was a player that could hold the play up in a different way. Does that make sense, or am I talking shit here?
No. I never really wanted to go, to be honest. I quite liked him.
Yeah, I wouldn't have let him go either. But for what we're talking about now, I'm not convinced that when I read that point, which in its fullness was sort of saying this is a guy that could have led our line. Not for me in the Championship. I'm not sure for me in League One, really.
But it won't happen with it.
No, because it costs too much.
Well, and he'd have to be crazy to come.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, we're all right on that front. It's the Alex Hudson at AL_Hudson. Favourite ever Boxing Day match? Mine is going away to Grimsby and watching Cov win 1-0, which has the Lee Hughes hat-trick where he scored, missed a penalty and was sent off. And I think we've already alluded to on this podcast previously, Pritchard turned up wearing Oggie's coat. Other than that, yeah, that was fucking freezing. But obviously, the greatest Boxing Day match ever was when we beat Villa 3-0.
We saw
what year was that?
1 week before.
We saw talk about the Arsenal game on that. As part
that was lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Robbie Keane's finish. Oh, come on. How's he doing that?
I'm a big Premier League years guy, and so for me is that is all about hearing Richard Keys describe us as the entertainers, and then for once us actually living up to that billing, I think is a lovely piece of sort of consumerist football history, at least.
All right, 2 more to go. GW at Cov 1981. What's a good transfer window in January, and what would be a bad one?
One that's double glazed, one that's adorned by sort of festive trinkets. Neil?
I don't want to lose Hamer. Is that too obvious?
No, I went good. Good is keeping Hamer. Bad is selling Hamer.
There's been literally no talk of it, has there?
There hasn't, but that doesn't mean fuck all, does it? I mean, let's be honest. As you say, it's an odd time. God knows what the football finances are like. If someone offers you 4 million, do you just get rid?
I'll take 4 million, won't they?
I would have thought so.
I don't think they would. Because I think
they spend? They spent a bit, didn't they?
It was like 1.5 million, and this is the big one. Is that the thing is that when you look through the finances, Swiss Ramble do a load of good stuff. There's a load of people who do a load of good financial stuff. It's if you look at the finances of Barnsley last season and this season, you have to stay up this season because one, it increases your overall propensity to stay in the Championship unbelievably. So if you can make it through the first season, then you are in your likelihood. I don't know that everything is different, but a whole ocean of statistics doesn't mean nothing either. And secondly is I don't think that once you're in the Championship, the whole thing is if you buy a player for 1.5 million and then they're successful in the Championship, they no longer cost 4 million, do they? Callum Wilson was 3 million about 7 years ago in League One. If you've got a successful Championship player, I'm going to want a real fucking bunch for Harmer now. Whether he's only been here 6 months or not. Yeah, I kind of think you've got the right to say, if we sell him, this is like Jukovic when he went in the season that we went down in January. If we sell him now, if you look at the games that we've done well in, he's been there in every single one of them. Yeah. If you sell him now, we're not going to replace him, are we? Who are we going to replace him with?
The only problem is that it's us. It's just us, and we always do stupid shit like this, where you sell someone for far less than they're actually worth.
I don't know whether at this point we sell him for anything. I know I'm not saying this is what he's worth, but I think if you sell him for anything less than 10 million, you're insane because he's. Well, because
I like your style. That's it.
But I'm not saying he's worth 10 million. But for the worth of, if you look just through what he's done for this club, is that that makes him sound like he's Oggy. Do you know what I mean? For this season,
in the 15 games he's played for us,
the guy is he's held us aloft by his shoulders. You know what I mean, don't you? Is what it is. I just think if you sell him for 4 million now, he'd be like, oh, brilliant. So you just accepted that we're going down and that this is somehow
worth it. This is
Did you say you got one more question, or is that you all out?
One question. It is the question from the Sky Blue Hub. Everything and anything CCFC at the Sky Blue Hub. Are we staying up?
Yeah. Neil?
Yeah.
Do you mean that, or are you just following on with what you think is my positivity? I'm not even being positive there. I think we're genuinely going to stay up.
You know me. I thought we were going to win the league a couple of weeks ago. So, of course we're staying up.
The big one is the big guy.
Yeah.
I honestly couldn't tell it. I don't know.
You've just asked us.
Yeah.
No, sorry. I honestly don't know. The
well,
8
you don't
game...
know.
Oh, Jesus.
No,
None of us know,
sorry,
yeah.
I'm struggling. I'm not confident one way or the other, or confident and not confident. I look at it and think we're doing well. We're 6 points outside the relegation zone. We're 10 points above second from bottom. One of the bottom three is Wickham, who I think are doomed. My concern is we in that 8-game run where we played against some of the poorer sides, we didn't put enough of a gap between us and them.
I'll tell you
when
this
we
now,
play decent
right?
teams again.
Your contributions tonight, and specifically in this last 5 minutes, someone could have got just from looking at the BBC website. All you've done there is just recited like scores that we've had and said, I'm not prepared to give an opinion because anything could happen. Why would anyone listen to this podcast?
Well, people like this podcast because you two give opinions and I sit here on the fence. But the thing is, I don't know because I have no.
Well, yeah, nobody has.
But the thing is, I don't even have a gut feeling for it. I just don't know because we're so fine line. We're so fine line that we could easily go on an 8-match game run now where we don't win a game.
Yeah,
because of just the way we are. And it's if there's a side that was a bit like if it was the Mowbray side, it went from being fucking brilliant to being shit, to being back to being brilliant to being shit. It's like, okay, if we eradicate all that, we're a decent side, so we'll be fine. Or if we keep doing that, we're a shit side, and we won't be. I don't think we're a shit side. I just don't think we're sort of we're a lower end championship side, but that's where we're at, and I know that. And as I said, the last 9 games, they could have gone any way. Take the Rotherham game out where we were really good and we bossed them. The other 8 games, we could have won all 8 because we had the chances to win all 8. Okay, apart from maybe Luton and Birmingham City, which were just too shit. We could have lost all 8 because there were chances for the other team to score first or to take their opportunities. All of those 8 games were so fine line, it could have gone either way. And that's where we're at. The fact we're not conceding goals again is brilliant, but we don't score that many. And for me, it's like I just don't have a gut feeling on the season at all. I can't read us but I can't read the opposition either. Because as I said, I was really surprised by how shit Cardiff were, and then they went on a 3-match winning streak against decent sides. I just don't have a feeling for this season. I don't think it helps the fact that I've watched quite a lot of the games now. I didn't think I was going to. I haven't watched many of. Obviously, no one has. I haven't seen us live. I just can't get a scan on us, and I know that doesn't help, and that seems like I'm sitting on the fence. I just can't because I just can't get my head around what's going on. So in answer to are we staying up, I honestly don't know because I just don't. I can't get a feeling for it.
Neil, I know that we've talked about the laws of the game a fair bit. Would you change the laws of the country to hang Paul as a traitor?
This is all seeming very weird. I mean, Paul's sitting on the fence and I'm sat here with 2 screens of BBC website in front of me. Everything's gone wrong at the moment. Like, I don't know, we're in a twilight zone or something. It's very strange.
I think, look, I'm only needling you for the sake of needling you, Paul. But I guess that's the thing, is it's about 50-50, isn't it? So let's not...
And you are right. It is hard to gauge. Sort of. I mean, I kind of like us, but this is going to sound stupid. I kind of like us when we win. And then other than that, it's just a bit annoying. Like, cause with Hammer and the team, and when we look good, at points we look good when it clicks. And then you just get these moments. There's kind of... There are those drops, and there's times when we just don't look like we want to win. We want to draw. And then that could be our downfall as well, I think.
The difficulty for me, just very quickly, is going to be the fact that if we stay up, we will stay up because there were 3 teams worse than us, which again sounds like a stupid thing to say, but it's about whether the teams that are below us at the moment pick up or they don't pick up. And the main reason that I think that we'll stay up is because there's too many weird teams down there that I don't think that they'll all pick up. So I think one of them will just die. And I think that I'm basing it on being Sheffield Wednesday. Anyone that I speak to that supports Sheffield Wednesday just says, not only have we had the points deduction, we're also the worst team in the division. And so I'm banking on them going down. I think Wycombe will go down because ultimately they're worse than us. I sort of think that Rotherham are going to have a much better chance going down than us. And then it's a case of whether they go on a mad run and everyone else does. But after that, what we've got, Derby, Forest, there's someone else down there, isn't there?
That's QPR.
QPR
QPR in a bad run of form. Birmingham, I said when we played Birmingham, I saw 2 teams who were going to be in the relegation battle. I think one of the things that does give me positives, and we sort of discussed it earlier when we were talking about players you would sell. You think of the team that got us relegated from the Championship back in 2012, and I know some people will struggle with this. Baker was shit. David Bell was shit. Yeah. We had about 5 or 6 players who just weren't good enough. I don't see that in the same way. I don't think Sheaf is a bad player. I don't think even McFadden, we've sort of adapted our game so McFadden isn't isolated. One of the things I did find quite strange when he played 4 at the back, that no one targeted McFadden to play on the floor around him, because we played against teams who had lumbering target men. I've been surprised by how poor the opposition strikers have been in the main. They seem to be quite a similar ilk of the Djukovic, the Kiefer Moore for Cardiff City, that sort of player you can sort of pin down. It's the creative players around them if they can spark into life. But in quite a few of the games, we've managed to keep them quiet. Could we play quite condensed with quite a tight knit unit? And that is, now we've sorted the defence out. We're barely conceding goals. So I don't see a team full of bad players who are playing badly every week. I just see a team that is quite naive because they're still quite young and they haven't played lots of games. And I see a team that is just lacking, as I said, Sheaf and O'Hare would be fine if Kelly's there and you had someone who was 27, 28, 29, or even 32 alongside O'Hare taking the pressure off him. I think we're putting a lot of pressure on these guys, and it'll be in the second half of the season. I think it's difficult to know. One of the disadvantages I find from having last season, the way it ended, is we never had those absolute, you've got to get a result out of this to win the title. We didn't have that grind running. Do you know what I mean? Mm. We didn't get over the line to win promotion. We didn't win promotion in that way. So there can be points this season where we're gonna have to, both the management and the team are gonna have to grind things out. They're gonna have to find results from somewhere. And I said, you look at the clubs at the bottom. Chris Hughton in charge of Forest has done it. Derby's a bit of a basket case. Pulis, I think Sheffield Wednesday are in trouble. But I think they play Wycombe, us, and Derby in 3 consecutive games early in the new year. And that'll be, we'll see where they're at after those 3, because that's basically season defining for them. So, as I said, I don't think we'll go down because I think we're a bad side. I think again, unlike 2012, we've got a decent management system. You know, Robbins and AD are as good as we're going to get, or as good as you're going to get from a promoted side. So I've got no issues with the management. I've got very few issues with the actual players we've got. It's just whether or not they've got enough about them to keep us up is the unknown, and that's where I'm struggling.
Anything to add to that, or does that seem like a very neat place to wrap us up?
Neat.
Okay, guys, apologies for the delay, but we are back with you now eventually. Thank you very much to Neil.
Thanks, mate.
And to Paul.
Cheers, buddy.
And again, back to you. Thanks for listening and Merry Christmas. Bye.
Merry Christmas.